Hey everyone, and welcome to another deep dive. We love exploring these lists, ranking all sorts of things in the Pokemon world, and today we're tackling one that's all about speed. We're talking about the fastest Pokemon according to a list on the top10s.com.
Oh, these user-generated lists, they're always a wild ride.
Right, it's like a mix of serious analysis and, just pure fan passion.
You see some pretty heated debates in the comments. Sometimes people get really attached to their favorite Pokemon.
For sure, and what makes these speed lists particularly interesting is that it's not always clear-cut, like you might think.
You mean how sometimes a Pokemon that's not technically the fastest can still feel super speedy in battles?
Exactly. Because speed in Pokemon, it's not just about that one stat in the Pokedex, right? There's so much more to it.
Absolutely. There's strategy involved, items, abilities, moves. All these things can influence how fast a Pokemon feels in practice.
So before we dive into the specific Pokemon on this list and all the love and the hate they're getting in the comments, let's take a step back.
Okay, back to basics.
Yeah, when we talk about speed in Pokemon, what are we really talking about?
Well, at the core, you have those base speed stats that you see in the Pokedex. It's like the foundation, right?
Okay, so that number basically determines who goes first in a battle.
Exactly. Higher the number, the faster your Pokemon is off the mark. In theory, at least, but in practice.
There's always a but, isn't
You
there?
always, right?
Yeah.
Because Pokemon battles, they're not just about who has the bigger number. It's a game of strategy.
Okay. I'm already intrigued.
Think of it like chess.
Yes.
You have to anticipate your opponent's moves, think a few steps ahead, and speed plays a huge role in that.
So it's not just a foot race. It's more about outsmarting your opponent.
Precisely. And that's where all those other factors come in. You mentioned items, abilities, moves. Those can all manipulate speed in different ways.
So even if your Pokemon doesn't have the highest base speed stat, you can still use strategy to make it feel faster.
Exactly. You can give it an item that boosts its speed, or use a move that lowers your opponent's speed, or even have an ability that kicks in under certain conditions.
Wow, there's a lot more depth to this than I initially thought.
Oh, absolutely. And then you bring in the world of competitive battling and things get even more complex.
Competitive battling, I'm all ears.
So in competitive battles, everything revolves around speed
The
tiers.
speed tiers. Okay, break that down for me.
Basically, you take all those base speed stats and you group Pokemon together into tiers based on their speed.
So like the fastest Pokemon are all in one tier, and then the next fastest are in another tier, and so on.
You got it. But here's the thing. The tiers themselves aren't evenly spaced out. You might have a bunch of Pokemon clustered together in one tier and then a big gap before the next.
Interesting. So a small difference in speed can actually make a huge difference in what tier you end up in.
Exactly. And that's why understanding speed tiers is so crucial for building a competitive team. You need to make sure your Pokemon can outspeed the common threats within their tier, and ideally even some threats from the tier above.
So even if your Pokemon isn't the absolute fastest in the game, being in the right speed tier can still give you a big advantage.
Absolutely. It's all about knowing your opponents and building a team that can outmaneuver them.
Okay, I'm starting to see the strategic brilliance here. Now, let's talk about some of those Pokemon that are known for their speed, the ones that are always at the top of these lists.
You're talking about the big names like Ninjask and Deoxys speed form, right?
Those are the ones that always come to mind, but what makes them so dominant in the speed department?
Well, Deoxys in its speed form, it was like a rocket. It sacrifices pretty much everything else bulk power just to be the fastest thing out there.
And it definitely succeeds at that.
Oh, yeah, no question. And then you have Ninjask, which is interesting because its initial speed stat isn't actually that high.
So what's the secret behind its reputation for speed?
Ninjask has this incredible ability called Speed Boost.
Speed boost? What does that do?
Basically, every turn, Ninjask's speed increases.
Wait every single turn. So the longer a battle goes on, the faster it gets.
You got it. After a few turns, it can even outspeed Deoxys.
Wow, that's incredible. It sounds like a high-risk, high-reward kind of strategy.
It definitely is, but when it works, it's a sight to behold.
Okay, I can see why those two are always at the top of the list, but there are so many other Pokemon on this list that fans are passionate about. One that's getting a lot of love is Jolteon.
Jolteon, a classic electric-type speedster.
And you know what I love about some of these comments? It's the simple reasons people give for loving certain Pokemon. Like one person just says, I like Jolteon because it can hold electricity.
Sometimes it's as simple as that, right? Pure admiration for a Pokemon's design or abilities.
Absolutely, and Jolteon definitely has that cool factor.
Plus, it has a naturally high base speed stat, so it's a threat right out of the gate.
All right, moving on to another fan favorite, and this one is a legendary Pokemon known for both its power and its speed.
You're talking about Mewtwo, right?
The one and only.
Genetically engineered, powerhouse, incredible psychic abilities, and yeah, its speed is definitely a part of what makes it so formidable.
Definitely you don't want to give Mewtwo a head start in a battle.
It can outspeed most opponents, and when you combine that with its psychic attacks, it's a pretty scary combination.
Now get ready for this one because it sparked some serious discussion among fans. We're talking about Greninja.
Ah, Greninja, the ninja frog that stole everyone's hearts back in Generation 6?
And for good reason. It's got style, it's got power, and yes, it's got speed.
Greninja's speed is impressive on its own, but it's the combination with its signature ability, Protean, that really makes it special.
Okay, hold on. Protean. That sounds intriguing, but how does that relate to speed?
So Protean is one of the most unique abilities in the game. Basically, it changes Greninja's type to match whatever move it's about to use.
Wait, so if Greninja's facing a fire-type attack, it suddenly becomes a fire type itself?
Exactly, it adapts on the fly, which makes it incredibly difficult to counter.
Whoa, that's next-level strategy. No wonder people love using Greninja in battles.
And remember, Greninja is already fast, so it's often outspeeding its opponents anyway, and then by the time they can even hit it, it's changed its type to negate their advantage.
So it's not just about being fast, it's about being unpredictable too.
Precisely, and that's what makes Greninja such a fascinating Pokemon to analyze. It's a testament to how speed, when combined with other strategic elements, can completely change the game.
I'm seeing that now, and there's this comment here from someone who used Greninja in that Pokemon Brick Bronze game on Roblox, that fan-made game that was super popular.
Oh yeah, I remember that one.
And they're saying that Greninja's speed basically let them win every battle.
It speaks to Greninja's effectiveness in a variety of contexts, and let's not forget its anime counterpart, Ash Greninja.
Oh yeah, Ash Greninja, that was a whole other level of awesome.
It took Greninja's speed and power to a whole new level, and further cemented its place as a fan favorite.
All right, so we've covered some heavy hitters here, the Pokemon that consistently dominate conversations about speed. But I'm curious about the underdogs, the ones that might not be the fastest on paper, but have something special that makes them shine. Let's dive into those next. So we've talked about, those Pokemon that are like the speed demons, the ones that are always going to be at the top of these lists. But what about those Pokemon that maybe aren't breaking any speed records, but still have a way of, surprising you with their speed?
You're talking about the ones that maybe get a little boost or have a unique advantage that lets them shine.
Exactly. And I'm thinking Mega Evolutions are a great example of that.
Oh yeah, Mega Evolution can definitely shake things up in the speed department.
It's like a temporary power-up, right?
Exactly. It can drastically boost a Pokemon's stats, and speed is often one of the stats that gets a major upgrade.
And there's one Mega Evolution in particular that's getting a lot of attention on this list. Mega Alakazam.
Ah, yes, Mega Alakazam. One user makes a pretty passionate argument that it's often overlooked when it comes to speed.
Really? I mean, Alakazam is known for being, super intelligent, but I don't usually think of it as a speedster.
Well, its regular form might not be the fastest, but Mega Alakazam is a different story. This user claims it's actually the third fastest Pokemon overall.
Wow, third fastest.
Yeah.
That's impressive. Who are the only two that are faster?
According to this user, it's only Mega Mewtwo, Y, and Deoxy's speed form that outspeed Mega Alakazam.
Okay, that puts it in some pretty elite company. What kind of speed are we talking about here?
Mega Alakazam has a base speed stat of 150.
150. That's a huge jump from its regular form.
Oh yeah, it goes from brainy to blazing fast.
No kidding. And looking at the list, I see some other Mega Evolutions getting shout-outs too. Mega Aerodactyl, Mega Skeptile, even Mega Beedrill.
It seems like Mega Evolution gives a lot of Pokemon a chance to show off their speed.
It's like they have this hidden potential just waiting to be unlocked, and strategically, that must be so interesting to play with.
Absolutely. Being able to unleash that burst of speed at just the right moment can completely turn the tide of a battle.
It's all about timing, knowing when to strike now, besides those Mega Evolutions. Are there any other Pokemon on this list that have a kind of unique way of utilizing speed? I'm curious about what other outside-the-box thinking fans are bringing to the table.
Well, one that stands out is Crobat,
Crobat the Bat Pokemon.
the one and only, and a user makes a compelling argument that, based on the real-life speed of bats, Crobat deserves a spot on any list of fast Pokemon.
I love that it's like they're taking inspiration from the real world to make a point about a Pokemon's potential.
It's a great way to approach this topic, looking beyond just the in-game stats and considering the broader context.
It reminds us that these creatures are often based on animals we see in nature. And those animals can be incredibly fast, so why not their Pokemon counterparts?
Right, exactly. And speaking of real-world speed, there's another Pokemon mentioned here that's known for its swiftness, Latios.
Oh yeah, Lacteus. I remember it soaring through the skies in the anime. It was always depicted as being incredibly fast.
The comments about Latios are really interesting. One user mentions seeing it dominate in Pokemon championships, which speaks to its competitive viability.
So it's not just fast in theory, it can actually hold its own in high-level battles.
Exactly. And another user talks about it being able to fly as fast as a jet plane.
Wow, that's some serious speed.
Yeah.
It really shows how passionate fans are about these Pokemon. They're not just looking at numbers, they're drawing from their experiences with the anime, the games, even real-world comparisons to make their arguments.
Exactly. This list isn't just about who's objectively the fastest. It's a celebration of the diversity of Pokemon and the unique qualities that make them so captivating.
It's about the emotional connection fans have with these creatures, often stemming from personal experiences and memories.
And speaking of emotional connections, there's a comment here that really made me laugh. A user is expressing frustration that the picture used for Shaman isn't its sky form.
They're so invested that they're even paying attention to the visual details.
It's a testament to the level of detail and care fans have for these Pokemon. They want them to be represented accurately and authentically.
It's like they're saying, hey, this Pokemon is more than just a set of stats. It has a personality, a history, a unique visual identity that deserves to be recognized.
Exactly. It's those little details that can really make a difference for fans.
It's inspiring to see that level of dedication,
Yeah.
and it just goes to show that there's so much more to these Pokemon than meets the eye. There are layers of complexity and depth waiting to be uncovered, and that's what makes exploring these lists so much fun.
You hit the nail on the head. It's about appreciating the nuances, the individual stories, the unique qualities that make each Pokemon special.
This deep dive has been a real eye-opener. I feel like we've only scratched the surface of what makes a Pokemon truly fast, but we've seen some incredible examples from the undisputed champions like Deoxys to those who defy expectations like Mega Alakazam and Crobat.
And we've seen how speed can be a strategic tool, a source of inspiration, and even a point of passionate debate among fans.
It's clear that speed isn't just a stat. It's a quality that sparks debate, inspires awe, and fuels the imaginations of fans worldwide. It's
Yeah.
amazing, right, how much we've been able to unpack just from this one list of the fastest Pokemon.
It really shows you how passionate people are about this topic.
And, as we wrap up this deep dive, I keep thinking about all the different ways we've talked about speed. Like, it's not just about winning battles, right?
Exactly. It's about so much more than that.
Like, remember that user who brought up Crobat and how fast real bats are?
Oh, yeah. That was a great point.
It made me realize that, speed can also represent that sense of freedom and exploration that you get in the Pokemon world.
You're right. It's about being able to move quickly and efficiently to cover more ground, see more Pokemon, experience more of the world.
Exactly. And that ties into that whole idea of the Pokemon journey, right? It's not just about battling. It's about discovering new places, meeting new people, and facing new challenges.
And speed allows you to do all of that more effectively.
It's like that feeling of momentum, that sense of constantly moving forward and pushing yourself further.
And that's what makes the Pokemon journey so exciting and rewarding.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave our listeners with this thought. Embrace that concept of speed, not just in battles, but in all aspects of your Pokemon journey.
Let it be a source of motivation, a symbol of your progress, and a reminder that there's always more to explore and experience in the vast and ever-evolving world of Pokemon.
Beautifully said. And on that note, I think it's time to wrap up this episode.
It's been a blast exploring the world of speed with you.
Likewise, and I hope our listeners enjoyed it too.
Until next time, trainers, keep training, keep exploring, and keep that passion for Pokemon burning bright.
And remember, speed is key.